Building a successful e-commerce brand is one of the hardest things that you can do right now because there are over 24 million online stores competing for attention, and the majority of these stores, they're not even making any money. But the reason that it feels so difficult is nothing to do with the product that you're selling. It's because you're focused on the wrong things. The thing is, most founders get caught up in obsessing over ads, maybe creatives, maybe funnels, and they think that if they can massage everything into looking better, finally people will start buying. But that's not exactly how this works, because there's a leak in your business that's losing customers before they even reach the point of purchase. And if you don't fix that, it doesn't matter how good your ads are, you don't have a brand. For those that don't know, my name's Sasha and I've helped over 2,200 founders build and grow profitable e-commerce businesses. And what I've learned through the process of doing this for over a decade now is building a brand is only hard until you stop competing on visuals and start building something that your competitors can't replicate. Because the founders who actually win, they follow a very simple, very specific 3-step framework. And once you see this framework in action, everything starts to click into place for your business. A perfect example of this is one of my clients, Paul. He started a knife brand called Cutter & Co. Very solid product, clean website, running ads, but nothing really converted. So like most founders, he assumed the issue was the creative side, right? And he just doubled down on improving his marketing, changing his hooks, changing his angles, better visuals. Every bit of effort was just on that one thing. And there was some incremental changes, but nothing really material in terms of changing the sales that were coming in. The breakthrough, however, came when he stopped trying to defend his original idea and then started paying attention to what the market was actually telling him. You see, instead of building what he wanted, right, he shifted into what people were already saying they were willing to pay for. And it changed things. Within days, he started getting sales, and within a few months, he was doing over $100,000 per month, only because the direction had changed. And this is where most founders get it completely wrong. They know that logos and colors and all of that stuff, look, they don't build a brand, but they replace that with an over-reliance on ads and creatives and funnels, thinking that those things will fix the core problem, but they won't, right? Because those things are amplifiers, okay? They don't create demand, they just expose whether it's there or not. Another example of this is when I launched my makeup removal brand, Vasu, I was very clear on who it was for and just as clear on who it was not for. I was targeting people with persistent skin issues. People who had tried everything, spent money, and still could not find a solution, and every product they used would still flare up their skin with redness and irritation. So the brand didn't try and speak to everybody. It spoke directly to that specific female, and it solved a very specific problem that they already cared a lot about. The first step of this framework is finding your strategic position. If you want to test your own positioning, grab a notepad and pen or use a Google document and do this with me right now. First, write down your top 3 competitors. Next, I want you to write a short description of your brand, what you do, who it's for, and why it's different. Now ask yourself, could that exact description apply to any of these competitors? And if the answer is yes, chances are you don't have a brand. A real position is specific. It's built on a clear point of view, a defined customer, and the decisions that you're willing to make and not make that others don't. And this is exactly what Paul figured out with his knife brand. When he looked at the data, he realized that the actual buyers, they weren't female foodies or, female individuals that were in the kitchen cooking for their husbands or their families. That's what he originally thought. But he figured out that they were men who were into barbecuing and getting outdoors on the grill. And once he leaned into that angle and aligned everything around it, the entire brand started to change and resonate and created its own identity. He shifted the brand towards the data, right? Used real creators instead of staged content or AI content, and the brand finally started to feel authentic. And this is what strategic positioning does for you and your brand. Now, once your positioning is clear, the next step is building the value chain. The idea is that a competitive advantage isn't created by one single thing you do, because a strong brand isn't built on just one good decision. It's created by a system of activities where every part of the business reinforce the exact same message. Your product, your content, your creators, your offer. They all need to point at the same person in the exact same way. And so when Paul made this shift, he didn't just, change the messaging in his ads, right? He changed everything around it. The product, the creatives, the audiences, the offer, everything on his web pages, everything evolved to make that avatar feel like this is just for you. And that alignment is what turned his brand into something that consistently converts up around that $100,000 each and every single month. Now, the final step in this process is, to be honest, what most founders just completely avoid, but it's where the strength of your brand actually comes from. You need to be clear on what you stand for and what you don't stand for. Think about this from a customer's perspective, right? A brand that is trying to appeal to everybody, it feels really slippery. It's like they're trying to sell me that, but then they're not trying to sell me that. They're premium here, but then they're discounting here. You can't quite put a finger on like what they actually believe or what they don't believe. And so you don't really feel anything towards them, because when a brand tries to appeal to everybody, it ends up meaning nothing to anybody at all. But when a brand has a clear point of view and they're not pretending otherwise, that's when people lean in. That's when someone shares your content because it feels like it was written just for them. I call this the trade-off, and it's not a weakness at all. It's your source of strength, because every single time you say no to the wrong customer, you're reinforcing your position for the right customers. This feels scary. It feels a little bit like, I don't know if I'm going to piss people off. But I'm going to tell you exactly how you do it. I want you to write a we are and we are not statement, right? On one side, 3 to 5 things, right, that your brand definitively plant that flag in the sand. We stand for these things. On the other side, 3 to 5 things that your brand rejects, adamantly rejects. It could be styles, audiences, promises, vibes, things that we do, the icks. We don't do those things, okay? This statement needs to become an internal filter, almost like a decision-making index, and make sure to run every piece of content, every offer, every brand decision through this filter. It sounds really simple, right? That no one ever does this, and then they make a whole bunch of decisions that end up creating this Frankenstein of brands that no one even understands. Because almost 1 in 5 founders fail in their first year of starting their brand because they haven't executed these 3 steps together from the beginning. Strategic positioning, building your value chain, and then defining your rules are critical to the success of your business. Now look, even if you get all of this right, there's still one problem that, oh my goodness, this thing destroys so many businesses, and it's quite terrifying, to be honest. It's copycats. So one of my clients, Shelby, she built a brand around the caravanning and camping market with insulated cocktail kind of cups. And in the early days, the business was, small, doing maybe a couple of sales per week. The first year online revenue was like under $8,000. So nothing crazy impressive. The biggest issue is she was spending over $30,000 to patent the original product because copycats in China flooded the market within 6 months. Fake versions were spreading across dozens of eBay stores, Amazon stores, and every single seller you can imagine. And she thought that a patent would be her advantage, right? In her words, it completely was a waste of time, because in reality, most brands, they don't have the resources to actually enforce and protect the patent. A patent only works if you have thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars required to sue the factories stealing the design. And the factories copying you, look, they don't care. They'll just keep moving and then spin up a new eBay store the second you shut that one down and do it again in 2 months' time. And so Shelby was losing her mind trying to defend her original design, and eventually she realized that she was fighting the wrong battle. What she did is she stopped paying the lawyers to protect her old product, and she started using her customer data and her time and her energy to build a better one. And this allowed her to beat all of the copycats purely with the focus being on speed and creating amazing products. So while the other companies were busy, reverse engineering, Shelby was already talking to her actual buyers, and she found out exactly what they loved about the cup, right? And also what annoyed them about the cup. She grabbed all that feedback, went directly to a manufacturer and launched a new and improved version of the cup before the copycats even got their cheap knockoffs onto the first page of Amazon. This single shift in strategy is how Shelby stopped from bleeding money on legal fees and then scaled her business from $500 to a peak of over $90,000 per month. And that's why I advise everyone starting a brand to always avoid that copycat trap. Because if you don't, customers will lose trust because they simply see the same thing, the same offer, the same product on 100 other brands. And you fail to give them a specific reason to buy yours because it all looks the same. So the only way out of this is to stop trying to win the imitation game and start building something that only you own. And here's the kicker. You have to do the work. There's no way around it, okay? Follow the 3-step framework that we've just discussed in this video. And once you build your brand this way, you'll stop trying to beat your competitors and actually start realizing that you don't need to compete with them at all. This is how you win. This is how you build a brand to 7 and 8 figures each and every single year. The best way to do this is by having someone look at your brand, look at the numbers, look at the positioning, and tell you the 1 or 2 things that's silently killing your growth. Because when you're inside your own business, it is almost impossible to see your blind spots clearly. This happens when you're the one holding the map and reading it at the same time, when all you have to do is find a specific answer to why your brand isn't converting the way it should, and what to do about it this week. And that's it. This is the exact point when all of my clients come to me for help because they're stuck in a trap and no one shows them how to get out of it. So if you want clarity on what's not working in your business and then what to fix specifically this week, and only this week, and keep focusing on that thing until it is no longer a problem, you can head down below in the description and you can book a call with my team using the link in the description. Click the link and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.